Today I'll be moving with the module 3. Module 3 will give the entire detail about the channel structure of LTE. A very interesting module. What are the contents? The contents related to the channel structure of LTE is introduction about the LTE, then what are the channel structure which is involved in the LTE, downlink OFDMA radio resources, and uplink SSC-FDMA radio resources. So we'll be discussing these topics in this module. This is only about the part A of this module. The part B will be taking later. Regarding the first content, the introduction to LTE. As you know already, the LTE is the next step in the evolution of mobile cellular system. It is designed primarily for high-speed data services, and it is a packet switched network from end to end and has no support for circuit switched services. But a low latency of LTE and its sophisticated quality of services service architecture allow this LTE network to emulate a circuit switched connection on the top of the packet switched framework of the LTE. Because of this only we are able to go with an voice communication using LTE network. What are the design principles? The basic design principle that were agreed while designing this LTE architecture and has been followed by 3GPP organization are network architecture, data rate and latency, performance requirements which include spectrum efficiency, mobility, coverage, radio resource management, flexibility of spectrum and deployment, interoperability of 3G and 2G networks. What is this network architecture? The network architecture will give you the information about the what type of network is used in LTE. Mainly the packet switched network will be used along with the and a well-defined QoS, quality of services, and it consists of a minimum number of interfaces in order to provide the communication channel. Then coming to the data rate and latency. The data rate will be different for downlink and uplink, as you know already. The downlink data rate for the LTE will be 100 Mbps and uplink data rate will be around 50 Mbps, 50 megabits per second for uplink. For downlink, it is 100 megabits per second. Coming to the latency will be different for the data plane as well, that is a user plane and the control plane. When we speak about the user plane latency, it is the time taken to transmit a small IP packet from the user equipment to the edge node of the radio access network, or a vice versa measured on the IP layer. There will be around 5 milliseconds of latencies allowed on a standard basis on an unloaded network for one user equipment. Unloaded network indicates there is only one mobile equipment which has been connected to the network. Under that condition only around 5 milliseconds of latency is allowed, not more than that. Coming to the control planner latency, it is a transmission time for an campered state or active state, which will be around less than 100 milliseconds, and for the transition time between the dormant state to the active state will be around 50 milliseconds. So depending upon the control packet that has been transmitted along with the data packet, the minimum latency on a standard base will be allowed. It will be 100 milliseconds for an transition time to the compound let state to the active state, or from the dominant state for the active state it will be around 50 milliseconds. Coming to the performance requirement. The performance requirement will be an important content or a topic that has to be discussed to know about the principles which are being used in the LTE. The target performance requirement or LTE are specified in terms of spectrum efficiency, mobility, and the coverage. Coming to the spectrum efficiency, as the average downlink user data rate and the spectrum efficiency target will be 3 to 4 times of the basic radio network. Whereas for uplink also it will be 3 to 4 times of the basic radio network. Coming to the mobility requirement of the LTE will be able to support and handoff or mobility at the different terminal speeds. The maximum performance is expected if the lower terminal speed will be around 0 to 15 km per hour. As we know, we are using an user equipment, that is your mobile, which can be moved from one place to another place. When it will be moved from one place to another place, it will get connected to the one base station or the other base station. This mobility is a very important parameter. If the mobility of the equipment is between 0 to 15 km per hour, then the maximum performance can be expected. If there will be a little bit minor degradation in the performance if the mobile moves at the speed of 120 kilometers per hour, and there will be an expected to have a sustained connection for a terminal speed up to 350 kilometer per hour. But always there will be a degradation in the performance if the mobility speed increases more than 15 kilometers per hour. Coming to the coverage. For a cell coverage, the above performance targets must mesh with a 5 kilometer range. The cell range of the 30 kilometer, there will be a slight degradation in the performance. If it is around 30 kilometers to 100 kilometer, then the performance will be degraded accordingly. Radio resource management. The radio resource management requires the coverage of various aspects like enhanced support for an end-to-end equipment with a quality of services. It supports the transmission of higher bytes, higher data to the higher layers. It supports for the load sharing and also balancing and policy management and enforcement across the different radio access terminologies using different technologies. Then the next one is the flexibility of spectrum and its deployment. In order to become a truly global standard, in order to become a very good standard, this LTE is designed to operate under a wide variety of spectrum, including the ability to coexist and share the spectrum with the existing 3G technologies. Service provider in a different geographical regions will have a different spectrums. So depending upon the geographical region, the different spectrums are used, and there will be total available bandwidth which will be designed by the LTE will ranges from 1.4 megahertz to 20 megahertz. Next, interoperability and with the 2G and the 3G networks. Usually the LTE is designed with the multi-mode terminals which supports UTRAN and GRAN operation. What is a Utron? Actually, Utron previously we called a Utron. Nowadays we called as a E-Utron. E-Utron is nothing but evolved universal terrestrial radio access network, which will be able to support the measurement of and handover from and to from both 3G and 2G networks. This is regarding the design principle has been agreed and followed for the designing of an LTE network. Let me have a screenshot of your joining so that I can have the attendance. We'll move on to the next topic, the network architecture. So far, whatever we have discussed, one by one we'll discuss how will be the LTE network, what are the different modules, what are the protocol have been used in order to develop a technology for a transmission of data as well as a voice. I think you are able to see the slide which gives you the idea about an LTE end-to-end network architecture. The complete architecture has been classified into two shells. I can call it as the first one is E-Utron, the another one is EPC. EPC is Evolved Packet Core. The entire network is composed of radio access network, that is nothing but E-Utron. What is E-Utron? Evolved Universal Terrestrial Radio Access Network, and the EPC. EPC is Evolved Packet Core. Both which have been defined with the different components which will help for an end-to-end communication which has been released by the 3GPP specifications. Go back to the slide where you can find out the structure. Please follow the cursor. The cursor is pointing to an user equipment. We call it as UE. That is your mobile. Your mobile will be connected to the E-Utron. In the E-Utron, you can find out number of E-nodes. E-nodes are nothing but the base stations. Then there is an evolved packet core. In the evolved packet core, you can check it. PDN-GW. PDN, Protocol Data Network, Gateway, Servicing Gateway, Mobile Management Entity. These are the three modules which will be included in Evolved Packet Core. So UE is the mobile terminal. E-node, it is also called as a base station, which terminates the air interface protocol. From your mobile to the E-node, it is called as an air interface. Here only we find it is a wireless communication, but from E-node to other network, it is wired communication. So the E-node terminates the air interface protocol, and it is the first point of contact for your user equipment. So wherever you go, it follows. That means your equipment will be connected to your base station if you are within the zone of that, the coverage zone of that E-node. The E-node is called as a logical node in the E-Utron, and it performs the function basically which has been defined in the radio network by the Utron. Usually the functions will be radio bearer management, uplink and downlink dynamic connections, radio resource management, and data packet scheduling, and as well as the mobility management. So these are the certain functions which will be performed by your base station, that is your E-node. Mobility management entity. Please go back to the slide where I can tell you about where is the mobility management entity. It is a part of EPC. Your UV is connected to the UEtron. In the UTron, you can find out only E nodes. So UV will be always connected to your E node if you will be in the coverage zone of that base station. So we'll be talking about the MME. Mobility management entity is similar in function to the control plane legacy servicing of your GPRS support node. It mainly manages the mobility aspects related to the 3GPP access, such as the gateway selection, which service gateway has to be selected, and also the tracking area of the mobile, which will be moving from one place to the other place, can be covered with the mobility management entity. Serving gateway. The serving gateway terminates the interface towards EUTRON and route the data packets between the EUTRON to the EPC. It acts as the servicing gateway. It's an interface between your EUTRON and the EPC. In addition, it is the local mobility anchor point for an inter-E-node handovers and also provides an anchor for inter-GPP mobility. That means it supports the handovers between the two E nodes as well as the inter-GPP mobility networks. The servicing gateway and the mobile management entity is implemented in one physical node, or it can be implemented in different physical nodes. The packet data network gateway, which will terminate your servicing gateway interface towards the packet data network, and it routes all the data packets between the evolved packet core and external packet data network. That means it acts as an interface between the two PDNs. It is the keynote for the policy enforcement, charging data collection. It also provides an anchor point for the mobility of non-3GPP access. The external PDN can be any kind of IP network as well as IP multimedia subsystem. So the external PDN network can be any type of the network, but the communication is possible only because of this packet data network gateway, which will be matching the different network parameters according to the requirement. The PDN gateway and the servicing gateway may be implemented in one physical node, or it can be implemented in the separate physical node. There are two interfaces very important that already we have analyzed in the module 5 in detail. SI interface and X2 interface. It is S1 interface, not SI. S1 interface, it is an interface that separates the EUTRON and EPC. Can you see here? The S1 is the interface which separates EUTRON and EPC. It is an interface between your EUTRON network and the EPC network. It is split into two parts, S1U and S1MME. S1U carries the traffic data between the E node and the servicing gateway, and the S1MIME, multiple input, multiple entity, which is the signaling only interface between the E node and the MME. It should be MME. So it acts as an interface between the EUTRON and the EPC. There will be two types of S1 interface, S1U and S1MME. S1U carries the traffic data between E node and the servicing gateway, whereas the S1MME will transmit the signaling information between the E node and the MME. X2 interface. The X2 interface is the interface between the number of E nodes. Please go back to the diagram. Can you find here the X2? X2 is the interface between the multiple E nodes. S1 is the interface between the EPC and EUTRON. There can be two types of S1, S1U and S1MME. S1 U act as an interface between the servicing gateway and the Utron, whereas S1 MME will pass the signaling data between the MME and the Utron. Coming to the X2 interface, X2 interface is it connects the multiple E nodes. It's an interface. That interface is between the multiple E nodes consisting of two parts, X2C and X2U. X2C means it is a control plane interface between number of E nodes, while X2U means user plane interface between the number of E nodes. It is assumed that there always exists S2 interface between the number of E nodes that need to be communicate with each other whenever your two end user will be in the same coverage zone of the E nodes. So far this is about I explained about an LTE end-to-end network architecture. Yeah. Jiva, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Anirudh, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
Should sleeping up.
Huh?
Are you there, Kiran? I'm not getting any voice from Kiran. Kiran Kumar V. Abhilash.
ಕೆಲವು ಸೈಟ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಯಾವ ಸೈಟ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಸಮಯ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Apeksha, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm getting response from the girls. I don't know. Boys are. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Please,
Yes, ma'am.
everyone. You have to send your USN name through chat. You have to send your USN and your name in a chat box. That will be considered for the attendance. Hope Everyone got it? Please send your USN and name in a chat box. It will be easy for me to put the attendance. Shall I continue the class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hardly 10 minutes is left over. Just another 2-3 slides are there. Let me complete it. So we'll move to the next topic, radio interface protocols. So what are the protocols are needed for the communication? Will be grouped as an radio interface protocols. The LTE radio interface is designed based on the layered protocol stack. The protocols are structured based on the layered, that's why it is called as a layered protocol stack. And this complete stack is divided into two, control plane stack and user plane stack. Can you see, are you able to see the slide which shows both the stack, control plane stack and the user plane stack? In the control plane stack, we find only one protocol, we find the RRC which is dedicated only for the control plane. We won't find the RRC protocol in the user plane. Whereas the other protocols, PDCP, RLC, MAC and physical layer protocols, which are there for both control plane stack as well as the user plane stack. I'll explain once again. Whatever the interface protocols are needed for an LTE radio communication are grouped under two stacks. One is called as the control plane stack, the another is called as the user plane stack. The control plane protocol stacks includes RRC, PDCP, RLC, MAC and physical layer. Whereas the user plane protocol stack includes PDCP, RLC, MAC and physical layer. RRC is dedicated only for control plane protocol stack. We won't find RRC in user plane protocol stack. This is how the packet flow in the user plane. In a PDCP protocol layer, whatever the IP packet will be there, for that the header files are added, and this IP packet we call it as PDCP PDU. Already explained in the module 5, there are two types of PDU will be there. One is the data PDU and the control PDU. Both will be same here. This will be applicable for both. PDCP PDU is a packet which has been generated by the PDCP protocol by taking IP packet and adding the PDCP header files. This complete PDCP PDU will be transmitted to the RLC, which is the radio link control protocol. This radio link protocol will take this PDCP PDU and adds its own header files. These header files we call it as RLC header files, and the generated PDU, the packet data unit, we call it as RLC PDU. Then this RLC PDU will be transmitted to its higher layer, that is the MAC layer. In the MAC layer, we find the MAC protocol. This MAC protocol takes this RLC PDU and adds the header. That header file we call it as a MAC header file. The entire PDU is called as now PAC PDU. Now your PDU is ready to transmit over the physical layer. This entire MAC PDU will be transmitted over the physical layer and it is called as transport block. So the radio interface protocols are composed of following. What is the first one? RRC. RRC is only dedicated for your control panel stack and it performs the functions like paging, maintenance and release of RRC connection, security handling, mobility management and the quality of service management. The PDCP protocol, that is the Packet Data Convergence Protocol, it performs the major IP packet header compression and decompression using the robust header compression protocol, ciphering of data and the signalings, integrity protection for the signaling, and there will be only one PDCP entity at the E node and the user equipment per bearer. Radio link control protocol, the main function will be segmentation and the concatenation of data units, error correction through the automatic repeat request protocol, that is ARQ protocol, automatic repeat request protocol, and in sequencing delivery of the packets to the higher layers. I already explained it operates in 3 modes: TM, UM, and AM. TM is the transmit mode, UM is the unacknowledged mode, AM is the acknowledged mode. There is an only one RLC entity at the E node and at the UV per bearer network. Media access protocol, media access control protocol, main function will be error correction through the HARQ mechanism, hybrid, which is it is the hybrid automatic request mechanism, and the mapping of logical channels in the transport channels will be done with this protocol. Multiplexing and demultiplexing of RLC PDU to a transport block so that the communication can be carried out very easily. The number of data, that is the number of RLC PDU, can be transmitted over the broad channel. Priority handling between the user equipment by means of a dynamic scheduling. It also responsible for the transport format selection of a scheduled UVs, which includes a selection of modulation, what type of modulation has to be followed based on the UV, and also what is the code rate, and what is the multiple in and multiple output ranking, and what are the power level that has been used for the transmission purpose. There is only one MAC entity at the E node and one MAC entity at the user end. So 2 different MAC entity will be there. One is at the E node, one is at the user equipment. Whereas about the previous, all these radio link entities will be, the RLC entity is shared, one RLC entity shared by E node and UV. Same thing, PDCP entity is shared by E node and UV. The physical layer is the one which all the MAC PDU will be transmitted. That is actual transmission, the reception data in the form of a transport blocks will be carried out. The physical layer is responsible for various control mechanisms such as the signaling using the HARQ feedback, signaling of scheduled allocation, and also the channel measurement. Different parameters related to the channel has to be measured time to time. That work will be done by this physical protocol. So these are the different protocols which has been embedded for the transmission of packet data. That's why these are called as radio interface protocols.